Part 51. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 501. Chapter 501 Fragments of the Realm Gate. After the examination was over, Liang Bao immediately took the old couple away, leaving space for their parents. As soon as they left, Mujukan carried Yuan into the wooden house. In the wooden house, Yuan was so tired that she lay on Mujukan, unable to open her eyes, which made Mujukan laugh. Still smiling, "How are you doing lately?" Fortunately, Mujukan scratched her nose and kissed her. "Don't worry, as long as I don't go out, no one will dare to attack me openly, and I will be invisible when I come out. By the way, why do you remember that your parents on Earth are here? Just think about it." "Oh, I thought something happened." Mujukan breathed a sigh of relief. "What could happen? I don't know how to run away yet." "I know you've been in trouble. By the way, what are your plans for your parents?" "It's up to them. If they want to practice cultivation, let them have their souls cleansed. If not, let them live for more than 100 years without any disease or disaster. Okay, you can take care of this yourself." "Well, I also want to find out who touched me back then." Thinking of what happened back then made her feel uneasy. She had done so many things but got that ending. "Have you found out that it was destroyed? Or should you just say thank you?" Mujukan joked. "Thank you," Yuan sneered, "destroying his 9 tribes, no matter who he is." "Okay, just be careful." Mujukan stroked the anger away from her body and whispered softly in her ear. A few days passed in the space, and Yuan sent Mujukan away before sending Yu's parents and Yu's mother back. It's still her room, except that Yu's mother went back to their room tonight and she slept in this bed. Yuan did not expect that Yu's father and Yu's mother were unwilling to practice cultivation, so she had to help them get their bodies in order to keep them alive for a long time. The next day, Yuan said goodbye to her parents and her mother, and came to a certain headquarters. She wanted to find out what happened back then, and she couldn't let her die in an unknown way. With the divine robe on her, she could go wherever she wanted, but it turned out that it was found out. Rather than saying that there were results, it would be better not to check. With Yuan's method, it was easy to find out what happened back then. No one tampered with the car she was riding in back then. It was as if the car exploded naturally. Yuan fell into deep thought. She had died and woke up directly in Yuan's body in another world. It was as if she had to die to accept Yuan's body. Thinking of what Xiao Zi said, she was not originally from these places. She came to be reincarnated. Does this mean that Yuan's body in the other world was prepared for her, a bridge for her to return to the world of immortality? Yuan in another world was hurt, and Yuaner couldn't stay in that body anymore, so she had to take over that body. So no matter where she was that day, she would definitely disappear from the earth. After thinking about everything, Yuan let out a long sigh of relief. The doubts in her heart were finally relieved. Finally, she found the female star from back then and learned from her that she had indeed stayed in another world for several years and was only on Earth for a few hours, so she woke up. Yuan looked at Yu's parents and Yu's mother again, and then returned to the Suanxi realm to continue practicing. Now that Xiao Zi wakes up, she begins to practice the fire magic power, the Sea of Stars. This move, the Sea of Stars, actually causes Xiao Zi's flames to break down into countless fire rains and strike them out. The fire rains are like falling stars all over the sky, and they look like the sea of fire. Don't underestimate this fire rain. Xiaozi is a divine fire that absorbs the power of stars. Its attack power is quite powerful. Anyone who is attacked by the fire will find it difficult for gods to escape. Yuan was very satisfied and finally mastered the fire magic power. When she met Lian Xiner in the future, she would use this trick to entertain her with the stars and the sea. It's just that Xiao Zi has been sealed in that space for too long and her strength has not recovered. She can only use one move, and Xiao Zi has to replenish the power of the stars. So in the days to come, Yuan would extend her practice time by 2 hours every day to recover Xiao Zi. Many years have passed in the practice of cultivation. On this day, the mother and son returned to the fairy world. She did not come back by herself, but the realm gate brought her back. At this time, Yuan was standing on a vast expanse of sea, and slowly opened a light door above it, and immortals flew into it in an instant. Yuan also flew in. She didn't know why Jimin brought her here, so she went in to see what happened. This space is very similar to the small space of the God clan. It is full of fairy spirit, green mountains and green waters, flowers, birds, insects and fish, pavilions, just like a fairy land. Many immortals couldn't bear to destroy the beautiful scenery here, so they didn't do anything to destroy it. Everyone just looked for it in the space. From the conversations of those immortals, I learned that this secret realm is new. Yuan is also looking for something in the secret realm that can be sensed by the world gate, maybe it will be useful to it. So Yuan slowly turned around in the space. Anyway, she was invisible and no one could see her unless they bumped into her. On this day, Yuan went to a lake. The boundary gate in the sea of consciousness suddenly moved, and she stopped immediately. Whoops, at this moment, the realm gate flew out of her sea of consciousness and plunged into the bottom of the lake. Yuan was startled and followed suit. Just as she got into the water, an immortal jumped into the water after her. They chased straight towards the boundary gate. It turned out that someone saw Jimin getting into the water. Yuan panicked when she saw this. She didn't care whether she could be discovered or not, and hurriedly chased towards the boundary gate. This lake is very deep, more than 100 feet deep. Everyone chased them to the bottom of the lake, only to see a broken arch standing at the bottom of the lake, half of which was shining with golden light, and the other half of which was pitch black. Only Yuan knows what happened. It turns out that the boundary gate is incomplete. The golden part above is the part she contracted, and the black part below is from the bottom of the lake. At this time they are merging. It's just that the black piece doesn't seem to be complete, which means there are still remaining parts of the boundary gate. No wonder she contracted the realm gate, but there is no weapon spirit in it. How could such an awesome artifact not have a spirit? But judging from that level, the level of the realm gate is not small, and she will still have to find it in the future. When the immortals who came down saw what was going on, they were on guard against each other and were preparing to the treasure. Now the baby is being fused and you can't grab it? Once the fusion is interrupted, the baby will be broken immediately. This is also the reason why Yuan did not close the boundary gate. The world gate merges very slowly, and the black part has only melted 1/10. Yuan was a little nervous. More and more immortals came down, surrounding the boundary gate. Yuan had to be on high alert. Once the fusion of the realm gates was successful, she would close the realm gates. She doesn't have the ability to take it back if someone takes it away from her. Time passed little by little, and the atmosphere became more and more tense. More and more immortals came down, and everyone was staring at the gate. At this time, the golden light on Jimin's body shone brightly, and the lake on the earth was illuminated. Yuan was extremely anxious. Why was this boundary-breaking gate so public? Did she not know that someone was looking for it? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 502. Chapter 502, The Heaven-Defying Realm Gate. Yuan was not the only one present who was nervous. They were all nervous, thinking about how to get the treasure later, and how to escape from the hands of so many people once the treasure was obtained. Although the baby is good, it is not as important as life. At this time, all the immortals present had protective shields on their bodies, waiting for action. The world gate has merged to the last point, and someone is already ready to make a move. Whoops! Ah! After a flash of white light, the soul of the person who was the first to take the shot at the gate of the realm returned to the underworld. The corpses of the killed people immediately turned into specks of white light and dispersed between the sky and the earth. Eventually, ashes returned to ashes and soil returned to earth. When Yuan heard the scream, the man's body was already dissipating. This immortal killed people really fast. Sure enough, immortals are immortals. So Yuan kept staring at the boundary gate. Buzz, with a buzz, the world gates merged successfully, and a golden arched door appeared completely in front of everyone. Ignore if there are more than half ghosts. Wow, so beautiful, someone shouted. Get it, hurry up. It's mine, don't steal it. Humph. Whoever grabs the baby belongs to the same person. Do you think this is your back garden? Someone heard this and quit. How could he be so stupid? Phew! Just when everyone was surprised by this strange treasure and rushed to grab it, the boundary gate flew back to Yuan's sea of consciousness at an extremely fast speed, without the need for her spiritual consciousness to control it at all. As soon as the world gate returns to the sea of consciousness, Yuan's consciousness moves back to the space. When everyone outside saw that the treasure suddenly disappeared, they thought that someone present had collected the treasure. Those who care about their lives immediately run away when they see the treasure gone, while those who want to get the treasure see someone running away and immediately attack them, thinking that one of them must have got the treasure. Based on the principle that they would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let one person go, the immortals resorted to large-scale attacks just to keep the treasure. For a time, the entire lake surged with waves, magic spells flew around, and countless immortals fell here. Yuan saw that scene in space and sighed in her heart, how important is the life of the baby? What the hell, monks are just a bunch of crazy critics. Yuan waited for the fight outside to end before coming out. When she came out, she found that there was no one in the secret realm, and the secret realm was in a mess everywhere. It was still a fairyland. The secret realm has been closed. Yuan simply found a relatively intact place and moved Liang Bei and Dehei out. The four of them wanted to collect all the elixirs in the secret realm. Although a lot has been harvested, there is still a lot left, much more than the Xianhongxian Mei. Boom! Just as the four of them were collecting the elixir, a fiery red phoenix suddenly fell from the sky and landed in front of the four of them. The four of them quickly moved out of the way. Where did the phoenix come from? Is it dead? Yuan saw the phoenix lying motionless on the ground. She signaled to Liang Bei and Dehei not to go over, and she walked over slowly. Phoenix opened its eyes weakly and saw a human cultivator approaching it. It said, "Human, don't come here." Yuan heard the sound and stopped immediately. Whoops! Suddenly, a fiery red phoenix-shaped jade pendant appeared in Yuan's hand. What does it mean? Phoenix said, "You will know when you can use your immortal power." Oh, that's it? The phoenix didn't speak anymore, because after it finished speaking, the whole phoenix's body started to burn. Nirvana. The two treasures were both surprised. They also came over to look at the phoenix that had fallen down inexplicably. Yuan shook her head, "It doesn't look like that. It's more like self-immolation." She originally wanted Xiao Zi to devour the phoenix fire, but it said it didn't like it. Yuan is speechless, this guy is so naughty. Sure enough, after the fire passed, there was no ash on the ground, leaving only a big hole. Yuan put the jade pendant away. She thought that the phoenix fire that Mujukan got was related to the Phoenix clan. She should give this jade pendant to him. This phoenix did not have any impact on them at all. They dug out all the elixirs they could in the secret realm. When I was about to leave, I also rescued a little fairy beast, hidden butterfly. The fairy beasts in the secret realm were basically killed, captured, and teased by the immortals who came in. Some of them were just little shrimps. This hidden butterfly had the function of invisibility and escaped disaster, but it also suffered a disaster from the fish in the pond. When it saw Yuan, it revealed its true form and saved it. It also followed Yuan into her space. When she returned to the Suanxi realm, Yuan entered the space and sat in the wooden house. Her consciousness entered the realm gate, and at the door of the realm gate, she saw that the current realm gate was different. So she asked the realm gate to come to the God realm again. This time, the God realm appeared in more places and could move with the divine consciousness. But she still cannot go to the divine world. Yuan guessed that the completed world gate should be able to go to the God realm. After looking at the God realm, Yuan looked at the immortal realm again. When she was not there, the gates of the immortal realm could be revealed and moved wherever she knew. She looked at the spiritual world and the small world again. As long as it was a large or small world that existed, the interface of the entire world appeared in the world gate. And you can take whatever you want. You can just lift the person away directly. Yuan's heart was filled with shock after seeing it. This world gate is completely unbelievable. It can be said that all the world is in her possession. I just don't know how this incredible treasure ended up like this. However, it is conceivable that everyone wants to own such a heaven-defying thing. Those who own it are hunted down and robbed, and it is normal for the treasure to be destroyed in the end. If one day she is hunted down, and there is no way to escape, she will also choose to destroy people and destroy them. In the days that followed, Yuan and her son basically improved their cultivation, but she never went to any realm to get anything. Some inexplicable things are missing. People who know about the realm gate must think that the person who owns the realm gate did it. It would be a big deal to be discovered. The two secret realms where the fragments of the realm gate appeared were artificially separated, and there were no living people in the secret realms, so once discovered, it would probably be a storm. Yuan felt deeply afraid of the person who was bound to win the gate. What kind of person or force could kill so many people without caring about their lives? Made her shudder. After that, Yuan became more and more cautious. Finally, the time agreed with Mujukan came, and the cultivation of mother and son also reached the perfection stage of distraction. It is estimated that Mujukan returned to the Xianling sect, and Yuan Ke appeared in the bamboo tower through the boundary gate. In the bamboo building, Mujukan was thinking about why Yuan and her son hadn't come back yet. He had already handed in the task for a month. When he sensed movement, he appeared in the living room and saw the mother and son whom he had been thinking about day and night. Waner Mujukan ignored his two sons and directly held Yuan in his arms. Liangbao pouted and went back to his room, leaving space for their parents. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 503. Chapter 503, Breakthrough and Refining the Void. How was the mission completed? Yuan asked. Mujukan pressed his forehead against hers and said nothing. How could he say such a disappointing thing after a long separation? He knocked her sideways and carried her to their room. Then a harmonious sound came, one wave higher than the other. If there was no formation, Yuan would have to find a hole in the ground and burrow down. Waner, I want to leave the section, Mujukan said afterward, stroking Yuan's waterfall-like black hair. Why, wouldn't it be nice to have a sect to rely on? I'm afraid that the elders in the sect will force me to take the things I have. Yesterday, the Peak Master of Wuhan Peak asked me to go there. He meant that I would become his teacher and his personal disciple. The condition is that I make a contribution. Take out my sword. The direct disciples in the sect can be said to be walking sideways in the sect. If the large Lingxian sect has hundreds of thousands of disciples, each of the inner and outer peaks has 7 peaks, and each peak has no more than 10 direct disciples. This ratio can be seen from a comparison. So the disciples in the sect are thinking hard and want to become a direct disciple one day. Not only is the status of a direct disciple, but the most attractive thing is the training resources. What people who cultivate immortality compete for are cultivation resources. The more resources they have, the faster their cultivation will grow. Yuan frowned. How could there be such a shameless person? Mujukan sneered, this is still an open robbery, and I don't know how many secret ones there are. Originally, I planned to worship the master of Sixiang Peak as my disciple, but thinking that so many people are staring at what I have on me, I simply didn't worship anyone. Break away from the Xianling section. It's not that simple to leave the sect, right? Well, I will abolish my cultivation and leave the mountain gate, never to be hired. Yuan shook her head hastily. No, don't be impulsive. No one knows whether they will do something to destroy your cultivation. If you don't want to become a disciple, just stay here at the outer gate and secretly improve yourself. She can hide beside him and take him into the space when his cultivation is gone, and she can keep him alive. What if your cultivation is broken and you still do this or that? It will be a big trouble, so leaving the sect is not a good way. Aren't you just thinking about the artifact on Mujukan's body? If you give it to him, give it to him. It's worth giving up the artifact to become a direct disciple. In this case, how about you go find Sixiang Feng, get him something else, and ask him to accept you as his personal disciple. Let me think. All right. Phew, as soon as Yuan finished speaking, a fairy talisman suddenly flew out and floated outside the bamboo building. Mujukan waved his hand to collect the immortal talisman in his hand, and his consciousness came into focus. What did you say? Yuan asked. Speaking of the news from Sixiang Peak, the master of Sixiang Peak asked me to go there. Go. Okay, I'll listen to you. Mujukan got up, put on his clothes, kissed Yuan on the face, and then left the bamboo building and headed towards the 4 elephant peaks. In the main hall of Sixiang Peak, the peak owner Changshun Immortal King was sitting at the top, and he saw in his mind that Mujukan had arrived. He waved away the disciples below, grabbed them lightly, and Mujukan appeared in the hall. Disciple Mujukan pays homage to the peak master. Mujukan entered the hall and saw the peak master sitting at the head. He immediately saluted. Changshun Immortal King lifted him up with a wave of his hand and said, "Did Chang'e come to see you yesterday?" "Yes." "Would you like to worship at Sixiang Peak?" Mujukan looked up at Immortal King Changshun without saying a word. "Don't tell me the conditions." Immortal King Changshun saw him silent and said, "You don't have to worry about anything. The master of this peak just doesn't want to see a formation genius fall into the hands of old man Chang'e. If you are willing, you can move to Sixiang Peak from within. You will start as a disciple, and when your cultivation reaches the level of an earth immortal, you will be accepted as a disciple only after passing the test of the peak master." Mujukan was hesitant in his heart, but thinking of what Wanner said just now, he cupped his hands and said, "Disciple is willing, thank you peak master. It is safer to stay in the inner gate than in the outer gate. It is impossible for people like Lian Xiner to harass him at Sixiang Peak. Although she is an inner disciple, she is not from the same peak." The immortal King Changshun waved to him when he saw his promise. Mujukan understood, so he went to the deacon hall of the inner gate with the handyman disciples outside to change his identity jade badge. After that, the immortal mansion was divided. After he made all arrangements, he went to pick up Yuan and her son. When the family arrived at Sixiang Peak, the disciples guarding Sixiang Peak told him that the inner sect could not accommodate their family members. This made Mujukan very angry. Yuan patted him and shook her head at him. Then he suppressed the anger in his heart and sent the mother and son to the market down the mountain. "Mujukan, let's go to the lower realm. You can practice peacefully in the section." Yuan thought for a while and said, "Lashiza Xianling sect won't let them live," so he made it clear what he meant. Besides, they are not immortals, so walking in the immortal world does have a lot of inconveniences. She didn't want to hand them over to others directly. They just wanted to control them and force Mujukin to commit the crime. What a pity to disappoint those people. Mujukin had no choice but to nod, find an inn, and let the mother and son go. He returned to Sixiang Peak with a gloomy face. He stood outside the main hall and took a look at the main hall, and sneered in his heart. No matter what methods they used, just come. Mujukin returned to the immortal mansion and went into seclusion. Changshun immortal king glanced at him and saw that Mujukin was the only one. What about the three people? But no matter how hard he searched, he could not find Yuan and her son. Only then did immortal King Changshun realize that Mujukin had tricked them. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future, and Mujukin can rebel in his territory. Yuan and her son came to Qingxi realm this time and stayed in a small city. She decided to stay in seclusion for a long time this time to improve her cultivation. After everyone in the space took some magic fruit, they began to retreat. Time flies, and 100 years have passed. In the space, the spiritual energy suddenly exploded. Yuan's consciousness moved, and the mother and son all left the space. The three of them quickly flew outside the city, each finding a place to trigger the thunder disaster. The three of them crossed the void realm at the same time. The dark clouds in the sky were pressing down on the three of them, and the tribulation thunder was also coming menacingly. The mother and son let go of the defense of the divine clothes and directly absorbed the power of thunder and lightning, and launched the galaxy Ju. No matter how ferocious the thunder in the sky is, they can absorb it completely without any waste. The thunder calamity in the sky seemed to know their needs, and they slashed desperately until their galaxy Ju broke through to the 6th level. As soon as the breakthrough was completed and the cultivation was consolidated, it was the turn of the blood-devouring demon worms again. This time there were not many blood-devouring demon worms left. The number of blood-devouring demon worms for a family of 4 increased from 400,000 at the beginning to after this breakthrough. There are less than 80,000. However, the 7th level blood-devouring monster insects seem to have mutated somewhat. Their bodies have grown carapace and wings. Physical strength is several times stronger than before. They can be said to have their place in the spiritual world, but they still have no use in the fairy world. Yuan has no use for them in the spirit world, so let them stay in space. Anyway, their cultivation is to eat and drink. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 504. Chapter 504 Hey Liza. The next one to break through is Daihe. This time it also ate the magic fruit and its strength needs to break through to that of a fairy beast, so they must return to the fairy world. Exactly 100 years have passed. I wonder how Mujukin is doing? Go back and see him by the way. Yuan went directly to the mountain forest outside Xianling Zonfang City. After arriving, she sent a message to Mujukin. Mujukin was killing monsters in the 10,000 monster forest. The monsters in the 10,000 monster forest didn't know what happened, and came out of the 10,000 monster forest to harm humans. Now people from all the major sects have sent out a large number of disciples to surround and exterminate all the monsters. These tens of thousands of demons, whether demons or immortals, are powerful. Under the leadership of the Demon King, they have already attacked human cities. Mujukin was sent outside the city to fight against the enemy. At this time, he had just killed a monster with a tiger head and human body. Suddenly he sensed the sound of the sound transmission jade. He swung a sword and ducked out of the battle circle to listen to the sound transmission jade again. Inside was the sound transmission jade. When Yuanlei received the message, he quickly replied and put away the message jade. At this moment, a celestial force attacked him from behind. Mujukin had no time to dodge, and was hit by the celestial force and flew out into the demon group. The demons saw that he was a human immortal, and their attacks hit him like snowflakes. Mujukin could only parry but not fight back, so he had no choice but to escape underground. The person behind the sneak attack was Lian Xiner. After so many years of failure, she had lost her patience and wanted to take advantage of the explosion in the 10,000 Demons Forest to kill him. When she saw Mujukin escaping, she felt regretful that she could not kill him despite such a good opportunity. This made her want to get Mujukin's treasure even more. After several trials, she was sure that Mujukin's treasure exceeded the level of fairy weapons. Sacred weapons, haha, the great masters in the immortal world may not have them in their hands. A small immortal at the human immortal level has more than one on his body. Mujukin, I hope you have such good luck every time. Mujukin escaped underground and immediately became invisible. He quickly escaped back to the ground and found a place out of reach of the fight. Looking in the direction of the person who attacked him, there was no suspicious person in that direction. Such sneak attacks occur not 10 but 8 times a day here, and there are many people who want to kill him and get the treasure. Made him hate this place and those greedy people. Over the years, he has worked hard to practice, and his cultivation has been promoted to the intermediate level of human immortal, but what's the use? He still has no power to fight back. Mujukin clenched his fists. Recently, he was refining a bomb similar to Wanus World. He named it Haliza. As long as he succeeds in refining it, he will blow up all those who try to get his idea. Damn it, this is the most miserable time in his life. Mujukin wiped his mouth fiercely and walked deeper into the forest of 10,000 monsters. He is playing dirty tricks, right? It's not like he doesn't know how to play dirty tricks. Let's say that Yuan knew that Mujukin was behind the 10,000 Demons Forest, so she asked the Realm Gate to send her there, and when she came out, she happened to be deep in the 10,000 Demons Forest. At this time, there was not a single child in the 10,000 Demons Forest, and they all went out to attack the city. Yuan looked at the quiet forest. She was wondering why all the monsters in the forest wanted to get up and cause trouble. Are they unable to live anymore? At this time, Mujukin came in and saw her in his consciousness. He was extremely surprised, and he teleported to Yuan in a few moments. Mujukin, Yuan was surprised. How did Mujukin know that she was coming? How did you know I was coming? Yuan stepped forward and hugged him. Haha, I came here to find a place to refine things. How did I know you were coming? Mujukin hugged her back and saw that all her worries were gone. Ah, you didn't miss me. What the hell, why don't I miss you? Mujukin pinched her face. What do you want to practice? Come here. The bombs in your world always have someone behind their backs. Wait for me to make them and blow them up. Okay, let's enter the space. Yuan knew that there were too many people attacking and assassinating Mujukin, so she didn't say much and immediately took him into the space. Mujukin went to see his two sons. The father and son exchanged their cultivation experiences, and the two treasures asked him for advice on the formation and weapon refining. Yuan didn't have to ask for advice. Most of what she practiced came from Starju. This time she was promoted to the Void Refining Realm Star Art and unlocked a footwork technique called Star Step. This footwork is as fast as a meteor. She has now reached the 3rd level of practice, and her speed is no worse than the teleportation of immortals. This step should have been unlocked long ago, but she didn't know why it was only unlocked now. She was wondering, could it be unlocked based on her needs? Unlock whatever aspect she feels she is weak in. Mujukin solved the confusion for his sons and went into seclusion. He must refine Haliza. Liangbao also went to retreat for digestion. Only Yuan practices Star Step in the space. After practicing enough, he takes care of the elixirs in the space. The magical medicines were all planted in the red earth, and now they are filled with divine power. She secretly stole a small divine vein in the god realm and planted all the magical medicines and fruits in it. Mujukin spent 2 months in seclusion and finally refined a batch of black plum seeds. Immortal stone was dissolved into it. He didn't know the power of the explosion, but it was enough for some people to drink a pot. His cultivation level is limited, but it is amazing that he can refine low-grade immortal weapons. After that, another batch was refined, and it was not released until the collected materials were finished. The first time he came out of seclusion, he asked Yuan to him out. As a result, the two of them decided to try the power of Heliza together. The two of them came to the battlefield invisibly and threw a black plum at the demon group. Boom, boom. After the two loud noises, two huge mushroom clouds appeared, with huge explosive force, sending all the monsters around them flying into the sky. Of course, all of them had their limbs broken, and almost none of them were good. The sudden explosion shocked both humans and demons. The two parties immediately stopped fighting. The Chuhan realm separated and the two parties faced each other. At the same time, both parties are searching for the source of the explosion. Such a devastating explosion should not be taken lightly, especially the Demon King. He now doesn't know who caused it and must find that person. With two more explosives like this, they can simply surrender and there is no need to fight. As for the cultivators, they want to find this monk so that they can control him for their use. The aura after the explosion is still filling the air. It contains the magical power used by immortals, not demonic power. If such an immortal cannot control it, who can bear it if he just throws a few of them anywhere? Mujukan and Yuanyan were standing aside. They didn't expect that Heliza was so powerful. Especially Mujukan, he was very happy. The depression in his heart was finally out. Who would dare to sneak up on him in the future? This power is enough to kill an immortal. Lianxiner, you coquettish bitch, come on, I won't kill you. Mujukan looked at the city wall with hatred. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 505. Chapter 505, Never Give Up. Lianxiner on the city wall sensed that someone was looking at him, full of malice. She frowned and glanced, who had any malice towards her? Mujukan? She hasn't seen him since she sneaked up on him. She knew he couldn't die, so she just scanned around and didn't see anyone else. He didn't know that she had beaten the woman away. If he knew it, he would have searched for her and tried his best to find her. Seeing the success, Mujukan and the two quietly retreated and then entered the space. In the space, Mujukan was extremely excited to relieve his lovesickness, and went to the refining room to retreat to ponder and improve Heliza. The two parties facing each other outside saw that there was no explosion and started fighting again. This time, both sides came out with strong performances. The fight was inextricable. Yuan had nothing to do, so when he got out of the space, he saw that they were fighting again. Yuan really hated these overfed monsters, so she threw 15 black plums at them. 15 black plum seeds were too powerful. After throwing them, Yuan entered the space and was not affected. Wanyao was caught off guard and was bombed again. This time the losses were heavy. 9 out of 10 low-level Wanyao died, which made the Wanyao king half-dead angry. He thought that people from the Rengzio side must have been ambushing them and came out to explode when they were not prepared. So he took action personally. The strength of the 10,000 Demon King was equivalent to the strength of the immortal emperor of the human monks. Once he took action, the human monks suffered heavy losses, with countless casualties. Seeing that the human cultivators were unable to defeat the king of 10,000 demons, they quickly invited Mahayana monks to stop the king of 10,000 demons. The 10,000 Demon King versus the immortal emperor period. Other demons fight against high-level human cultivators. Yuan exploded once. After the outside calmed down, she stepped out and threw a dozen more bombs at the monsters. These survivors were all high-level monsters. When they saw bombs coming, they left the people behind and ran away without fighting. In the end, only a few soldiers and generals were hit by the bombs. After Yuan saw that the Hylizi had no effect on the remaining monsters, she entered the space and waited for the war to end. The fight outside did not last long. After all, there were many powerful humans, but there was only one king of 10,000 monsters. In the end, he was injured by the powerful human race and escaped. The remaining human monks of the 10,000 monsters did not kill them all, but drove them back to the forest of 10,000 monsters, leaving these to the human monks as training partners. After that, each sect recruited all the younger disciples of its own section. Yuan moved Mujukan out and asked him to return to the sect, while she stayed here to wait for Dehe to survive the disaster before leaving. Mujukan had always been unable to do anything to her, so he had no choice but to follow the disciples back to the immortal spirit sect. Yuan waited until Mujukan left before letting Dehe come out to overcome the calamity. Of course, after the human monks had evacuated, Yuan released Dehe deep in the 10,000 monster forest. As soon as it was released, it would cause a thunder disaster. This time, the Great Black Crossing tribulation did not cause any trouble. 10,000 monsters did not dare to come. As soon as they sensed the aura of the divine beast, they were too scared to hide. How could they come looking for them? Trouble. And the human monks suffered a lot of losses this time, and they all went back to make repairs. Who would be in the mood to watch the fun and take advantage? It was because of this that Yuan decided to let Dehe survive the calamity here. As soon as Dehe's calamity was over, Yuan left immediately. Mujukan, who returned to the sect at this time, was sent to participate in the sect's centenary competition. Mujukan was miserable. It was unacceptable for him to participate in the sect competition alone in the middle stage of human immortality. I won't give up until I kill him. Mujukan really wanted to throw a few black plums and blow up the Xianling section. What a rotten sect with and dogs robbers. He decided that in this great contest, he would take the life of whoever wanted to take his life. The first competition of the competition is held in a small space separated by the section. 10 major formations are arranged in it. Those who can successfully pass will participate in the second round of competition. In the competition, the sect has regulations not to hurt people's lives, but if you can't pass the formation and fall, it means you are not strong enough. You deserve to die and get hurt. As for whether he was killed by him or strangled by the formation, there are immortal weapons outside watching, so it cannot be faked. The competition will be held in 1 month. On this day, Mujukan was summoned by immortal King Changshun. Still in the main hall, Changshun looked at this unbeatable Xiaoqiang and felt extremely annoyed. If other disciples had died millions of times ago, what would this person do? He can't even be killed. Let's see how he escapes this time. I've met the peak master. Mujukan bowed and shouted. No gifts, the competition will be in 1 month. If you can pass this competition, the master of this peak will accept you as a disciple. However, your cultivation level is a bit low. You can go to the flame cave in the back mountain to practice. Come on, he said and threw him a token. Leaving aside Mujukan's treasures, his cultivation talent is really good, which makes him cherish his talents. But compared with talents, treasures are still more important. Geniuses are never in short supply in the fairy world. Mujukan grabbed the token, bowed and left. Snored. He just likes to see them acting anxious when they can't kill him. The flame cave contains rich fire immortal chi. It is a place where only direct disciples and elders, peak masters and ancestors of the sect are qualified to practice. This old guy is willing to give him the token, fearing that there is something waiting inside him. Mujukan didn't care about any monsters. He went straight to the back mountain and came to the flame cave. He swiped the token on the barrier at the entrance of the cave and stepped in. As soon as he entered, a burst of immortal power hit him, and he became invisible in a flash. Huh, why is there no one? Did you come in? Obviously, a disciple wearing a white direct disciple uniform looked around. Mujukan looked down upon him, and an earth immortal wanted to kill him, but even the immortal King Changshun failed to kill him. If he hadn't thought that he liked the fire spirit here, he would have blown up the place and killed everyone inside. Mujukan entered, jumped directly into the magma, sank to the bottom, sat down and meditated to practice. He didn't want to waste a single minute of such a rare holy land for cultivation. In the Kingxi realm, Yuan saw Mujukan's situation outside the gate and was worried about him. So she asked Jimin to take her around to look for other pieces of Jimin to see if they could fuse together one more piece to capture and throw away all the people in the Xianling sect. If you keep doing this, one day you will fall into their trap. But in the vast world, looking for something the size of a finger is undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's not just luck, you can find it wherever you ask. 1 month passed quickly, and Yuan had to stop. She watched from the boundary gate so that if an accident happened, she could save her. Yuan watched Mujukan enter a space where formations were being formed, and he couldn't see where he was for a moment. She simply disappeared and entered the formation directly. She had a boundary gate and these formations could not stop her. Soon he found Mujukan, but she did not show up and kept hiding beside him watching. Suddenly, the boundary gate moved and it wanted to come out. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 506. Chapter 506 Fragments. Oops. Yuan shouted in her heart. Jimin wanted to run out to fuse again. This troublemaker was going to cause trouble, and I was afraid it would be difficult to escape this time. The Immortal Spirit sect has monks at the Immortal Emperor stage. Yuan forcibly controlled it not to go out, but Jimin had to go out even if he died. Yuan really wanted to throw it away. What a broken thing wouldn't obey her orders. Go, go, go. I really couldn't control it anymore. Yuan let go with my consciousness and let it go out. Sure enough, a golden light flashed past the boundary gate and flew towards the outside of the formation, and Yuan followed him out. I saw it spinning on the ground in a small space. The golden light was spinning there like a small whirlwind, which naturally attracted the people outside looking at the small space. Several pairs of eyes stared at the boundary gate. They didn't know where the gadget came from. At first they thought it was some disciple of celestial beings. But as time passed, they were shocked. When the gate had rotated for less than 100 breaths, a black object as big as a finger suddenly emerged from the ground, and merged with the golden gadget. At this time, the realm gate also stopped rotating and began to merge. During the fusion, the realm gate gradually revealed its true form. Yuan covered her face, not wanting to see this troublemaker. Do you want to be so high profile? Are you afraid that others won't know what kind of treasure you are? Yuan guessed that it was damaged probably because of its small size. The disciples in the formation don't know, but Yuan knows that there are a few pairs of eyes outside staring at everything in the small space, and they must be looking at it now. She had no choice but to keep an eye on Mujukan first. If the world gate was fused, it would come back on its own. Mujukan didn't know that Yuan was coming, let alone what happened at the realm gate. He was concentrating on breaking the formation. Whenever there is a killing array, he will become invisible for half a breath. The killing array cannot detect anyone and will not attack, which allows him to avoid countless attacks. It is much faster to break up the formation. The boundary door merged faster this time than before. When it fully merged and took on its true form, several people outside quickly stepped into the small space. At the same time, the Golden Realm Gate showed off for a moment and then flew into Yuan's sea of consciousness with a whoosh sound. Who? When the golden light disappeared around Mujukan, he noticed it. Don't make any sound, Yuan said. Mujukan was stunned. Why is Wanner here? That golden light just now. Mujukin, what did you see? His voice attracted the people outside. A few people watched the golden light fly here and then disappeared, and then heard Mujukin's surprised voice. Mujukin saw 5 elders and Chang Shun coming in. They must have come for the golden light, and the golden light was obviously taken away by Wanner. He had an idea and said, "Elders and peak masters, my disciple just saw something flying over there." Mujukin pointed to the left-hand side. "You didn't accept it?" Chang Shun asked. "Collect? What to collect? I don't even know what happened." Mujukin looked confused. Chang Shun really didn't know what he looked like. He looked around here for a while, and finally stopped all the formations to look for it but couldn't find the thing. Chang Shun and the elders had no choice but to stop the game, brought all the disciples back to the sect, and asked them one by one. They interrogated Mujukin emphatically, but Mujukin really didn't know what it was, and even after interrogating it for a long time, they couldn't find out why. "The thing is glowing with golden light. They are all high-level immortals. Of course, they understand that the golden glowing thing that can move independently and does not require the control of a monk is an artifact. It was clear just now that the incomplete artifact is merging, so they must find the artifact. Incomplete artifacts are more powerful than immortal ones. Even the sect competition has been postponed now, and the ancestors are all alarmed because of the missing artifact." But Yuan was looking at the merged realm gate at this time. The gate moved in front of her, showing off its capabilities. Yuan was speechless. This Jimin was just a little joke, and it was showing off. If someone took it away, it could continue to show off. As for her, she could only feel depressed. Yuan tried it, but he couldn't catch people directly in the fairy world. It didn't change much from before. The only thing that has changed is that Jimin is a little more naughty. Yuan checked and found that the weapon spirit was in this section, but the boundary gate was not complete, and now he only had some consciousness. Fearing that something might happen in the future, Yuan signed a new contract with the weapon spirit. When she found Mujukin again, he and a group of disciples were locked in a secret room in the sect. Those who have been treated in the secret room have no celestial energy, and they cannot cultivate even if they want to. Yuan didn't know how long they would be locked up, so she controlled the realm gate to find those in charge and see how they would deal with these disciples. She could definitely take Mujukin away now, and the consequence would be defection. From now on, he would be a defecting disciple pursued by the Xianling section. She didn't want Mujukin to live in this capacity. Look first and then speak, only resort to this as a last resort. Yuan found them in the immortal mansion of an ancestor of the section at this time. Several big bosses were discussing how to deal with these disciples. When the golden light of the heavenly realm gate appeared, some disciples saw it. Even if these disciples did not get the artifact, they were not allowed to leak the fact that the artifact appeared in the small space. "Ancestor, I think it's better to search for the souls of those disciples," said an elder wearing white sect uniforms with golden piping. "That's not right. The disciples in this competition are all direct disciples and highly qualified disciples in the section," another elder said immediately. "Chang Yun is right, let them all swear the inner demon oath. If they do, all memories about the artifact will be erased," another elder said. "Chang Shun, what do you say?" Patriarch Tianyuan asked Chang Shun, who had been silent. Chang Shun has actually been thinking about what Mujukin must know. He is more in favor of searching for souls, but the person searching for souls is not him, so he definitely cannot search for souls. The ancestors still don't know that Mujukin has a treasure on his body. Once they are asked to search for his soul, what does the treasure have to do with him? He also exposed his threats to Mujukin. He hurriedly said, "Ancestor, you can't search for souls. After all, they are the backbone of the sect and cannot be destroyed. In my humble opinion, let's just keep them locked up like this. If you stay in the secret room for a long time, there will always be someone exposed." Ancestor Tianyuan nodded. There is no immortal energy in the secret room. As time goes by, some disciples will lose their composure and be exposed. This is not a good idea. He doesn't agree with soul searching either. As for the heart demon oath thing, whoever has never sworn an oath of inner demons in his life has fulfilled it. To put it bluntly, he doesn't want to go out and be that evil person, and he is not the only immortal emperor-level person in the sect. Among those imprisoned are 3 other descendants of the immortal emperor stage, and he will not do anything that offends others. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 507. Chapter 507, Let's do something small. Yuan breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. Mujukin's life was not in danger at the moment. She just sent him some immortal stones. She can get all the divine stones, not to mention the fairy stones. So Yuan controlled the realm gate to search for fire mineral veins in the fairy world. After finding it, she took it away and sent some to Mujukin. As time went by, some disciples lost their temper and started smashing and hacking in the secret room. Some disciples are mostly direct disciples and descendants of the ancestors of the section their master has quit. What crime have they committed? Entering a competition and then being locked up in a dark room? Tianyuan was so annoyed that he had a headache. He had expected such an incident. After some observation, he was taken back by his respective masters. In the end, only Mujukin and 4 or 5 inner sect disciples were left without anyone to lead them, and they were also the most calm ones. Ancestor Tianyuan watched these disciples personally, and he thought that some of these disciples must know about it. So he decided to search for the souls of these people. These few were just inner disciples, so he just gave them up. When Yuan heard this, she thought it was okay. She quickly went to collect Mujukin in the space. As for the other people, she just kept doing nothing and let Mujukin and Dehe work together to knock people out and leave the space. Inside. After those 5 people were taken care of, Yuan thought that he would do something without causing trouble, so he would do something small and get dozens more in the section. Then he took those people to the Kingxi realm and threw them out. Space. Can't get high-level immortals, and there's nothing she can do about low-level ones. Snort. She went to the Xianling sect to kidnap people every day from now on, and she made the Xianling sect crazy and made them miss the artifact. She had too many worries before, afraid of this and that. Wouldn't such a simple and crude thing clear Mujukin's suspicion? Let them panic, let them want to go, no matter how hard they think, they will never think that it was her little Liangxu who did it. As expected, when those disciples disappeared, Patriarch Tianyuan was shocked and angry, so he ordered to find them. Sky. Who entered the Xianling sect to kidnap people? In the Immortal Spirit sect, we don't talk about copper walls and iron walls. Even if the Immortal Emperor comes, he can't come and go freely, right? Is this using the Xianling sect as a back garden? Or use their 4 immortal emperor ancestors as decorations? Tianyuan couldn't think of anyone in the fairy world who had this ability even if he tried hard. However, dozens of disciples disappeared the next day, and even the elders went to look for them personally. The sect leader also issued a task in the sect to award 10,000 contribution points to any missing disciple. Of course they couldn't find it. Yuan captured the second group of people and placed them in a small space. She was worried that the immortals were causing trouble in the lower world and causing it to collapse. On the 3rd day, Yuan arrested dozens more people and left. Yuan didn't stop until he was detained for 10 days. At this time, the Xianling sect was in panic. The 4 ancestors of Tianxin, Tianchang, Tiansheng, and Tianyuan sat in person every night waiting for Yuan to come to their door. Yuan looked at them with disdain. She calmed down and let you go on your own. In the space, Mujukin scratched her nose lovingly. Aren't you going to play? Yuan said, I'm almost out of anger. Those 4 old guys went out to arrest me personally. The disciples of Xianling sect are always on defense and won't go. Mujukan lay comfortably on the bed. I won't go back now. I'm tired of being cared about every day in the Xianling section. Well, why didn't I think of this method before? Yuan was a little annoyed. Mujukan patted her and comforted her. It's not too late, it's just the right time. Well, anyway, the Xianling sect should not think about peace and quiet in the future. There are still a few people who are worried about Mujukan. When their strength increases, those people had better wash their necks and wait. The 4 ancestors of the Xianling sect have personally been in charge for a year, and no disciples in the sect have disappeared. They estimate that the thief will not dare to come again, so they gradually let the matter go. Only Chang Shun spared no effort to find Mujukan. He had a feeling that the artifact must be related to him. He already had a divine weapon on his body, so it would not be surprising to have another one. Chang Shun always regretted why he had not been imprisoned in the first place. As long as a person is in his hands, he cannot be killed. Chang Shun's whole body ached when he thought of this. This year, Mujukan had already gone to retreat under the first immortal vein to break through. The fire immortal chi he had absorbed in the flame cave had made his cultivation reach a bottleneck. Yuan was here to protect him. In this way, another 5 years passed, and Mujukan finally succeeded in making a breakthrough and was promoted to the late human immortal stage. Another year has passed since he consolidated his cultivation. What they didn't know was that the people they kidnapped back then returned to the Xianling sect one after another. Tianyuan personally asked how they were kidnapped and who they knew. None of the disciples knew who it was. They only knew that they were not in the sect when they woke up. Tianyuan asked the sect leader to find out which disciples were missing and had not returned. The sect leader immediately reported that 556 people were missing at the beginning and 550 people had returned. 5 people have died, and only one named Mujukan has not returned. Tianyuan listened and asked, "Tell me the detailed information of those 6 people." The sect leader said, "Ancestor, the 5 fallen people were recruited by disciples from the immortal world. Only Mujukan was brought back by experienced disciples. When this person came, his cultivation level was only at the stage of becoming a god. The stage of transformation into gods, people from the lower world. How can there be a stage of transformation into gods in the immortal world?" The sect master nodded and said, "Yes, I started practicing after going to the sect's spirit cleansing pond. This guy's cultivation talent is truly astonishing. In just a few hundred years, he reached the middle stage of human immortality, and even went to guard the world. Go to the forest of 10,000 demons again." The sect leader didn't say anything more. He asked a few disciples who went with Mujukan and found out that he had a sword and a piece of clothing to protect him. This disciple has no treasure on his body, so he tore off his head and used it as a ball to kick. After hearing this, the ancestor will definitely go to him. If anything happens in the future, he will come to him as the sect leader. He doesn't care about treasures, and he can't keep them even if he gets them. Just like this disciple named Mujukan. It is original sin to have a treasure close to you. Tianyuan was silent after hearing this, and the sect leader took the opportunity to leave. In the space, Mujukan stretched comfortably. He had not been so relaxed for a long time. He was always on high alert in the sect for fear of being harmed. It is better to stay with your wife. Not only will you have benefits every day, but you will not have to worry about your life. You can also teach your sons. What are you doing as a sect disciple? Let the sect go to hell. Hey, Wan'er, what is that golden thing? Yuan smiled, "I thought you wouldn't ask, but you'd better not know. That thing is not a good product. Very dangerous. Maybe, someone is looking for this thing." Yuan pointed to her head. Mujukan breathed a sigh of relief. In the god realm, Wan'er wouldn't ask if she didn't tell her. He will know it when it is time for him to know it. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 508. Chapter 508. Lien Xiner suffered a loss. His strength is still too low, but he really can't rush his cultivation. He knows that his speed is already very fast, and it's not enough to go too far. In the future, you should work harder and improve your cultivation. Don't only think about improving your cultivation and ruin your foundation. He said, Wan'er, let's take a walk in the fairy world. Yuan nodded, okay. She understands that monks cannot work behind closed doors. It happened that Liang Bao also requested to go to the spirit world to experience, and Yuan and the others agreed. They sent Liang Bao to the Qingxi realm and then returned to the immortal realm to create space. Whoop. As soon as the two people came out, two immortal powers hit them. Ha ha ha, it's really you guys, you really make this very easy to find, Lien Xiner said through gritted teeth, with a ferocious look on his face that he wanted to eat them both. The two of them were caught off guard by the two celestial powers. Fortunately, they were not injured due to the protection of the divine clothes. Yuan was knocked away. Mujukan was better and only retreated a few feet away. He stabilized his body and flew to hug her. Are you okay? Yuan looked at the crazy woman and shook her head, it's okay. The two of them are very angry. This crazy woman is really haunted. They can also find them here. She really has some skills. The two stood still, glaring at each other angrily. Yuan said coldly, you really dare to come, do you really think that there is nothing we can do against you? Let's calculate it carefully today. Every time she was beaten by that crazy woman, she was unable to fight back. Today, let her have a taste of Xiao Zi's suffering. If you can't burn her to death, you have to let her drink a pot. Heh, that's not a bad tone. Today, I will see how bad you are. Speaking of this, he raised his hand to form a barrier, and at the same time, two rays of immortal power hit the two of them directly in front of their faces. The speed of the two immortal powers was so fast that they arrived in the blink of an eye. The two of them were prepared this time. Mujukan blocked a celestial force with a swing of his divine sword, while Yuan dodged another one with star steps at his feet, and at the same time struck out with a sea of stars. With a loud bang, Xiao Zi's flames flew towards Lien Xiner like an open faucet. A scorching wave rushed toward Lien Xiner overwhelmingly, and the fire rain rushed toward her as if it was spiritual. Even though the temperature was frighteningly high, it did not burn any grass or trees in the barrier. Lien Xiner felt the rain of fire that was about to melt her, and quickly summoned a defensive weapon. Puff puff. The fire rain rushed towards Lien Xiner's defensive weapon at an extremely fast speed, trapping her. Who is Xiao Zi? A rag can still block it? In a moment, Lien Xiner's defensive magic weapon was melted, and she was directly wrapped and burned. In an instant, Lien Xiner became a burning person, where the magician tried to get rid of Xiao Zi. Lien Xiner couldn't get rid of it, and she screamed in pain within a few breaths. She used her immortal power to protect her body and summoned her immortal weapons to defend herself. Yuan looked at it coldly. Whoops! Mujukan took the opportunity to swing the divine sword. Ah! Lien Xiner was hit by another sword. Lien Xiner was now anxious. She withdrew the barrier in a flash of consciousness and ran away quickly. Yuan ordered Xiao Zi to use all his strength to burn it one last time. Xiao Zi received the order and burned her face severely before flying back to Yuan's Danshan. It also runs out of power. Whoops, at the same time, even Xiner disappeared. Bang, on the other side of the forest, Lien Xiner fell to the ground. She shivered and poured out a healing elixir, threw it into her mouth, and quickly used her energy to heal her injuries. While curing her wounds, she scolded her. She hadn't seen that stinky woman for more than 200 years. How could there be such a dangerous fire that almost burned her to death? If it weren't for that stinky woman's strange fire being weak now, I would probably have to deal with it here today. I'm afraid I won't be able to take advantage of them in the future. Lian Xiner gave a vicious spoonful at the corner of his mouth. Even if she doesn't get the baby, she won't make it easy for them. Just wait for everyone in the immortal world to come to you. On the other side, Yuan and Mujukan finally got angry when they saw that Lian Xiner had suffered a big loss this time. Waner, what kind of fire are you doing? It's much more harmful than my phoenix fire. Mujukan asked after taking her to a safe place. Zaiwei divine fire. Ah! Divine fire, no wonder Mujukan kissed her on the face. His Waner was a calamity, so she could get such calamity. His phoenix fire is now half immortal fire, not immortal fire yet. He must find the phoenix fire and let it swallow and refine it before he can advance to immortal fire. There is a phoenix clan in this fairy world, where can I find them? This family of mythical beasts are all hidden from the world, so how can outsiders find them? Yuan looked at him and knew that he was thinking about his phoenix fire. She turned her hand over and gave him the phoenix-shaped jade pendant she got last time. Mujukan looked at the jade pendant in his hand and asked, Waner, what is this? A phoenix threw it to me. It knew when it said I could use my immortal power. You try it? Phoenix. Well, we were in a small space at that time, and a phoenix fell down out of nowhere. It gave me this jade pendant and said those words before setting itself on fire. That's it, let me give it a try. Mujukan mobilized his immortal power on his fingers and poured it into the jade pendant. Huh? What's wrong? Yuan asked nervously. Mujukan said, don't be nervous, the jade pendant is automatically absorbing my immortal power. Oh. The two of them stared at the jade pendant to see what changes it had. The fiery red jade pendant gradually turned white after absorbing the immortal power. That's weird, the two of them said at the same time. When Mujukan's immortal power was almost used up, the jade pendant suddenly flew in front of the two of them, shooting out a white light into the sky. Suddenly, a hole opened in the sky, revealing a space. Let's go and take a look. Mujukan put away the jade pendant, picked up Yuan and flew into it. When they flew in, the crack disappeared. The two of them looked at the space. At this moment, the boundary gate flew out again with a whoosh, and it flew away as soon as it came out. Mujukan only saw a golden stream of light flying away. He knew it was the golden stream of light he saw in the small space of Xianling sect. Yuan nodded to him and flew after him. They looked at each other while chasing. This space is different from the fairyland they encountered in the past. It is in a mess, as if there was a war that lasted no more than 100 years. The two of them were shocked, but they still followed Jimin first. The two men chased them to a collapsed palace, with the gates floating everywhere on it, as if calling. Sure enough, after a stick of incense, a black thing as big as a finger came up and merged with the boundary gate. Only then did Mujukan see clearly what it was, but he still didn't know what it was specifically. Waner would definitely tell him when the time came. At this moment, a white flame emerged from the place where the fragment of the realm gate had appeared. When he saw Mujukan, it penetrated into his dantian without saying a word. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 509. Chapter 509 Nanming Liwo. Neither of them realized what was going on. Mujukan screamed in pain and immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. Boom. As soon as Mujukan sat down, a layer of white fire erupted from his body. Mujukan Yuan was so frightened that she rushed towards Mujukan, trying to put out the fire. Master, don't go at the critical moment, Xiao Zi spoke. Yuan immediately stopped. Xiao Zi, what kind of fire is that? Go and swallow it? Her mind turned to mush, and she couldn't think of what the fire was. Master, don't bother me. It's Nanming Liwo. I don't have the ability to devour it. It's your man's opportunity, Xiao Zi said quietly. Nanming Liwo. Well, that's it. It's more dangerous than me. It's ranked second on the list of divine fires, and I'm only sixth, so I can't swallow its master. And you, the man, are afraid that you have the blood of the mythical beast Suzaku, and you have an extraordinary status, Zi sighed. Yuan nodded in confusion. Looking at Mujukan, who was in great pain, she clenched her hands into fists and didn't know how to help him. Master, don't be impatient, just wait slowly. Your man has passed this test, and his body and cultivation speed will all improve qualitatively in the future. Xiao Zi could sense her anxiety and talked to her to distract her. Attention! Can't you make it through? Yuan frowned, and her two eyebrows almost came together to fight. You still don't believe in your man's tenacity. Yuan pursed her lips, she believed it. She looked at the white flames, and the information about Nanming Liwo flashed in her mind. Nanming Liwo is the companion fire of the Suzaku clan of mythical beasts. It is extremely powerful, especially it can do double the damage to evil spirits. It is also the true fire of the Suzaku divine beast, and it is Suzaku's most powerful move. And because this fire burns to the extreme, it turns pure white and burns nothing. It's no wonder that Mujukan's previous elixir fire had miraculous effects on evil spirits such as puppets and demon cultivators. It's also no wonder that the Phoenix fire recognized it as its master. It turned out that he himself had Suzaku bloodline. Yuan glanced at this shabby space. I am afraid it was extinguished because of this divine fire. I just don't know what tribe originally lived here. Are they from the Phoenix family? It was the jade pendant given to her by the Phoenix at that time. If this is the case, they owe the Phoenix clan a favor, but there are no living creatures here, so how can they pay it back? Not only did Mujukan get the Nanming Liwo, but also the fragments of the realm gate. Yuan was thinking about something while looking at Mujukan anxiously. At this moment, Mujukan's face had black and oily stuff coming out of the exposed skin. As soon as it emerged, it was burned to death by the Nanming Li fire. So over and over again. Yuan frowned, wondering when Nanming Liwo would be completed. Even after the realm gate was integrated and returned to her sea of consciousness, she was not in the mood to check. Master, don't worry, Nanming Liwo is refining and transforming your man's body. The longer the time, the better. Xiao Zi spoke at the right time. Then why didn't you temper your body for me? Xiao Zi did not roll her eyes. She said, Master, does the skill you practice need to be tempered? You mean the battle of the galaxy? Yeah, otherwise, how could I recognize you? Xiao Zi didn't say the next words, otherwise the owner would ask it again. The master's current strength is too weak to be mentioned, so let's not talk about it. Yuan nodded. Xingju not only exercises the body and makes it stronger, but also tempers the body and removes all the impurities from the body. There is really no need for Xiao Zi to temper it anymore. Mujukan's tempering took a full month. When it was completed, the fairy energy in this small space surged towards him. It took dozens of breaths of effort to wrap him up into a white silkworm chrysalis. Yuan was stunned with this benefit. This is the rhythm of cultivation and promotion. Yuan looked at her own cultivation. Compared with Mujukan, she was just a snail. She was practicing before him at the beginning, but now she is several steps ahead of him. Even the next two treasures caught up with her. Mujukan in the cocoon of immortal energy evenly absorbed the influx of immortal energy. The immortal energy poured into his danshan, and his cultivation level increased at a constant speed. His body was transformed by Nanming Liwo, and there were no side effects of increasing his cultivation. So he just absorbed the immortal energy. Now the absorbed fairy energy circulates through the meridians and reaches the Danshan. Nanming Liwo has removed all the impurities in the fairy energy, and the fairy energy existing in the Danshan is pure. Mujukan was extremely happy. He controlled this joy and concentrated on absorbing and practicing. In less than half a year, Mujukan's cultivation reached the great perfection of human immortality. At this point, it seemed that it was not enough. He was still absorbing the immortal energy in this space. He felt that his body at this time was like a bottomless pit, and it could hold any amount of immortal energy. A year later, Yuan clearly felt that the fairy spirit here had become much thinner. She was thinking of using Mujukan's method of breathing, fearing that she would out all the fairy energy here. Sure enough, until 10 years later, when Mujukan caused the catastrophe, all the fairy energy in this space was absorbed by him. Fortunately, she had collected an immortal vein before and had enough immortal stones for him to overcome the calamity. More than a year has passed since Mujukan consolidated his cultivation. Wan'er, thank you. Mujukan cleaned himself up and immediately held her in his arms. This opportunity is so great that it has changed his difficult path to immortality. In the future, he will not worry about vanity or bottlenecks in his cultivation. As long as there is no problem with his state of mind, his cultivation will skyrocket. The most rare thing is the Nanming Liwo. The Nanming Liwo swallowed up the phoenix fire in his Danshan and became his natal divine fire. Nanming Liwo can recognize him as his master because he has the blood of the sacred beast Suzaku, and Nanming Liwo is the natal fire of the fallen sacred beast Suzaku, so as soon as he enters here, Nanming Liwo senses him. After being tempered by Nanming Liwo, his Suzaku bloodline became purer. Furthermore, I also obtained Nanming Liwo's divine fire magic. In the future, his magic will be improved to a higher level when facing enemies. And when facing Lian Xiner, who is in the fairy land, it will not be as delicious as the flames that Wan'er rewarded her with. Must eat her to death. Yuan also hugged him tightly, burying her head in his chest, smelling the familiar scent, and finally calmed down after worrying for more than 10 years. After a long time, Yuan Ke said, "Let's see whose clan this is, and we will have to repay them if we have the opportunity in the future." Mujukan nodded. So the couple started searching here. They first cleaned out the dilapidated palace to see if there were any clues. After cleaning up, I saw some residual paintings on the damaged walls. They sorted it out and it seems that they are descendants of the Phoenix family, the offspring of the union of Phoenix and humans. But no one was found at the scene, not even the body. The two of them had no choice but to leave here with regret. If there is a chance to meet in the future, we will talk about it later. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 510. Chapter 510. Is there any fairy king coming out to rob? The two of them came out of the space and prepared to walk around the city. They said they came to the fairy world, but they didn't even visit the fairy world. It's the two of them. Hurry up, stop them, don't let them escape. As soon as they came out of the forest, a dozen immortals flew out and surrounded them. One of the people with a heavy aura immediately set up a barrier and placed a ban on the two of them, prohibiting them from using their spiritual consciousness. Yuan and the other two looked at these people in confusion. Mujukan said, "Senior, what do you mean? The aura on his body is similar to that of Changshun Immortal King. This must be an immortal king. Is there any immortal king who comes out to rob?" The immortal king saw that the two of them looked calm, and said secretly that they had good intentions. "You are still young, but you are in the early stage of Earth Immortal." This qualification, tisk tisk tisk, he was so envious just looking at it. But considering the space and treasures they have, there is nothing wrong with their fast cultivation speed. Today I will grab the treasure no matter what. Xiaoao Immortal King said, Junior, it doesn't hurt to tell you. Then he waved his hand in the air, and a picture immediately appeared in the air. It showed the images of the two of them, but there was a line of text below it, which said that these two people were carrying valuable artifacts and life space. The two of them immediately understood that this must be the fault of that crazy woman Lnxiner. It's so cruel that she won't make things easier for them both if she doesn't get it. Yuan knew that nothing could be done better today, so when she immediately contacted the space, she found that the immortal who spoke had already sealed her consciousness. This time we also lost contact with Jimin. Does the dignified immortal king also want to rob? Mujukin said coldly after reading. Robbery? Ha ha ha, boy, do you know that everyone in the immortal world is looking for you? Are you sure you can keep your treasure? Immortal King Xiaoao finished speaking disdainfully, and rolled them up without waiting for Yuan and the two to speak again. Get up and dodge, people. Whoever openly chats with them will not be able to defend himself if others find out that he is the one who arrested the person. The most important thing is to get the treasure first. Xiaoao Immortal King returned to his fairy mansion and separated the two of them. He first went to Mujukin's place before looking for Yuan. Yuan was sitting on the ground. Now she was a piece of fish and could only be slaughtered. Xiaoao looked at the little female cultivator sitting on the ground and said, "Give the things to this immortal king, and I will definitely let you go." Yuan raised her eyes and looked at the somewhat embarrassed immortal king. The corners of her mouth almost turned up. Was this because she had suffered a loss from Mujukin? I gave you my treasure and let us go. How can we still survive when we get out? I'm going to die on both sides. It won't be easy for you to die with my treasure. Treat her as a 3-year-old child. There are a lot of people waiting for them outside, and they can go out without being crushed to ashes. Now that you're here, let's stay for now. I haven't killed her now just because I'm afraid that if she dies, the baby will be destroyed as well. Then just spend it. Sure enough, Immortal King Xiaoao's expression changed. Yuan didn't even bother to raise her eyes and said, "If you dare to touch my husband, I will destroy the baby immediately." After speaking, close your eyes. Xiaoao Immortal King was not upset either. He was really worried that she would destroy the treasure. The treasure was much more important than the life of this little nun, so he said, "Then you just stay here." Just now, he did go to Mujukin first. He didn't want to kill him, he just wanted to destroy his cultivation and force the little female cultivator to submit. Who knows what kind of flames he had almost burned him to death. Xiaoao Immortal King could only imprison the two of them first, and then slowly think of a way, but he just knew that he had to deal with the people who captured the two of them. This matter must not be leaked. Yuan saw that King Xiaoao had left, so she simply closed her eyes and used her skills to break through the restrictions in the sea of consciousness. Fortunately, her dantian was not sealed, probably because she was not even a threat to an immortal, so he didn't bother to care about her. "Master, how about I break that restriction?" Xiao Zi said at this moment. "Can it be successful at one time?" Yuan questioned. "No, we can only waste time." "Forget it, I'll be the master myself. As long as she breaks a little restriction, she can enter the space or control the gate." The Immortal King has no way to deal with them now, but that doesn't mean he won't find a way in the future. On the other side, Mujukin wiped the blood from his mouth and leaned against the wall. The Immortal King couldn't beat him to death, but he still gave him a good beating. Even with the protection of the divine clothes, he felt dizzy and uncomfortable. He sat down and ran the technique a few times, but it didn't help that there was no immortal energy here. You can only sit on the ground and let your body recover on its own. I wonder how Wanner is doing? Mujukin mentally greeted all the 18 generations of Lnxiner's ancestors. What a crazy woman. Next time he sees her, he will definitely kill her. At this time, Lnxiner was wearing a black cloak and sitting in a den pavilion. Since being burned by Yuan's flames, no matter how many elixirs she takes, her face cannot recover. There is no good spot on her face from the burns, and now even if the surface is healed, it is full of ugly red scars. Lian Xiner wished she could eat Yuan's flesh and drink her blood to refine her soul so that she would never be reincarnated. After she took the elixir and left, she immediately returned to her residence and quickly swallowed the healing elixir. An hour later, the injury on his face was still the same. Lian Xiner was so angry that he smashed everything in the house and flew out of the city to find Yuan. It was burned by her flames. It is estimated that only she can do something about it. Yuan was imprisoned for a day and gained little, but in the end Xiao Zi helped. Xiaoao Immortal King who was outside sensed that the restraint he placed under him was being broken, and hurriedly ran into the secret room where Yuan was imprisoned. When he came in, he punched her and threw her against the wall. Boom! Yuan fell heavily. Cough cough cough. Yuan got up and held her stomach. This person is quite smart. He knows that she has a magical robe on her body, so he doesn't need to beat her with magical power. You want me to kill this immortal king to help you, Immortal King Xiaoao said angrily, a little Liangsu could actually break his restriction. Xiaoao scanned her up and down and saw that there was a fire in her dantian. The sea of consciousness was restricted by soul power. The dantian must require immortal power. He knew that the clothes on their bodies could resist the immortal power and could not be restrained. Otherwise, they would have been there early. Imprisoned. Yuan felt uncomfortable looking at him and stared at him. She would definitely kill this man when she had the strength. Looking at her like this, you don't have to look at her completely. King Xiaoao simply added another prohibition before going out. Master, how come he can feel it when I move, but he can't feel it when you use the technique? As soon as Immortal King Xiaoao left, Xiao Zifei came out and asked her. Have no idea. She didn't even know why the star art came into her head. She didn't know why this mysterious star art had the power to defy the heavens. But in this case, you can only use star ju to grind it slowly, just like the time when Chu Yongxiao kidnapped her. Fortunately, star judgment can be used wherever there is the power of stars. End of this chapter.